I'm Liam.
I'm Wayne.
You're listening to In Film We Trust YouTube,
a place where we post clips from our recent episode.
All links down below in the description.
And now, on with the show.
So if any of you observant listeners actually listened to our last episode, Caliber, at the end of that we actually teased we were returning to the Outback. And we are in the form of Ted Koschuff's film In Fright.
In Fright from 1971.
1971. And Wayne, originally its international release title was actually Outback.
I actually like that title. What do you think? Do you think it's maybe too vague? Is that maybe why they didn't go with it?
I like In Fright. Do you know where In Fright comes from?
Yes, it's an old farmer's curse.
No, Wayne. Maybe we have wrong info. I'm going to tell you one, then you tell me.
I'll tell you mine, yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
19th century, there was an English cleric called Richard Harris Burman. He had a poem, and in that poem, there's a phrase or sentence, and he says, "He cursed him in sleeping that every night he should dream of the devil and wake in fright."
Well, that's similar to mine because it's an old farmer's curse, which is, may you dream of the devil and wake in fright. And it was based on a superstition that if a farmer went to sleep, dreamed of the devil, when they woke up, they'd find their crops dying.
So which do you think that is?
Well, do you think maybe the poem is what inspired the curse, maybe?
Possibly. We'll never know.
Yeah, but wake in fright, that's essentially where it comes from, to wake and to be in terror.
So late 60s, this was a novel. A novel by Kenneth Cook. And apparently this is it's quite a literal adaptation. It's following the story quite well.
I've heard, yes.
And to you observant listeners, Ted Koschuff, if you're thinking, that sounds vaguely familiar. Wayne, he done the first Rambo, First Blood, he directed.
Yeah.
Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. That's a varied career.
And he did Fun with Dick and Jane. I remember looking through his filmography and thought, that's an interesting blend, because it's all these different genres.
Which Fun and Dick and Jane?
The original.
What year was that?
I think that was 70s or 80s, because
70s
obviously
or 80s,
Jim
right.
Carrey was in the remake. Yeah,
not the Jim Carrey one.
No, the years before that. Also, interestingly, with like the nationalities who've made it, because it's an Australian film, set in and filmed in Australia. Ted Koschuff, Bulgarian-Canadian.
Canadian, yes. Canadian by birth, I'm pretty sure.
Also, the movie it's written by Evan Jones, originally Jamaican, lived all of his life in the UK. Oh, an interesting mix, and it's an Australian film.
Well, that's Australia, Wayne.
Also, this film, I think you'd agree, came out at a pivotal time in Australian cinema. Not only did it come out at the beginning of what's generally called Australian New Wave, the start of something we like very much, Ozploitation.
Ozploitation, which, if anybody's curious about Ozploitation, we actually explored in our Roadgames episode, and is actually we have a segment explicitly on Ozploitation on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So that's a little plug there. But yes, this film, pivotal in the New Wave, the Australian New Wave, also came out the same year as Nick Rogue's Walkabout.
Yes.
Which is very pivotal. Them two films, and Hanging at Picnic Rock, was it?
Picnic Rock, yes.
So I would say those three films, especially in the 70s, kind of kickstarted Australia's cinematic boom, didn't they?
Well, you say kickstarted, but when this film first came out back in 1971, it had a middling kind of reaction. I think critics liked it, but it did pretty disastrous at the box office.
Well, Wayne, 71 at Cannes Film Festival.
Yes.
Now, here's a little story. 71... Koschuff was showing this at Cannes. There was an enthusiastic fan in the audience, Wayne, at Cannes Film Festival. There was a little guy, dark hair. I'm just gonna say, Wayne, he looked kind of Italian-American.
I think he did. I think his surname was probably Italian-American too.
I think it would be a recognisable surname, but he was chanting, he was cheering, he was jeering, he was saying, "Oh my God, they're not going that far." You know, things of this ilk, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. And after this filming finished, Koschuff, the director of In Fright, asked the people of Cannes, "Who is this guy?" And they said, "Look, he's just made one film, he's insignificant, you don't care." But Wayne?
Yes?
Do you want to tell us who that mysterious, jeering, leering, enthusiastic fan was?
Well, it's a fairly kind of underground filmmaker, Martin Scorsese something? Martin Scorsese, I think? Who? Whatever happened to him?
Yeah.
Although, interestingly, this film competed for the Palme d'Or, I believe. Sometime later, 1976, Martin Scorsese released Taxi Driver.
Oh, yes.
Another little-known film,
Yeah.
which would actually win the Palme d'Or.
Would win the Palme d'Or. And did you know...
Great story, that.
Yep. And did you know this Koschuff film, In Fright, is one of only two films to be shown twice at the Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, because it was re-released 2009, I believe it was.
2009. And the only other film that has been shown twice is Antonioni's La Ventura.
Yeah, it's only one of 2 films.
Yes, exactly.
It's great. And when it came out, when it was in production, there was a lot of controversy. We'll get to that. Do you know one of the actors who turned down the lead role?
Michael York.
Michael York.
Michael York.
It
Who was in The Warriors?
Yeah, Logan's Run.
Logan's Run.
I'm also known for Austin Powers.
I know him from The Warriors, which is a film you don't like.
I don't mind it.
Is it? You think it's just people in subways walking?
Yeah, that's what my fiance said.
Is that what she said?
Yeah, I quite like The Warriors. But,
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but Michael York turned it down. Still regrets it to this day.
He does regret it. He
shame.
turned it down because of, which we'll get to later, the animal brutality.
Yes.
That's why he turned it down.
Even United Artists who distributed this had no faith in this film. And if you want an illustration how little faith they had, this film was released in America, one theatre on, I believe, the east side of New York on a Sunday afternoon. And because of a blizzard that was occurring at the same time, no one even seen it on opening day.
No one, not a single person.
Not a single person could make it to
So
see
it was literally on its original theatrical release, seen by no one in the United States.
It may as well have been released on a cinema screen in the Outback. That's how little actual promotion, I guess, it got.
So we said, this novel, the original novel, Kenneth Cook, he based this story in an area of Australia called Broken Hill.
Broken Hill, yeah.
Broken Hill. It's in New South Wales.
New South Wales, yeah.
This film, in a kind of a circular way, was actually filmed in Broken Hill, wasn't it?
It was, yes, because the names of the towns in this film are actually fictitious. But
yeah.
it was set in and filmed in Broken Hill. And
it was set in Bundinyaba.
Bundinyaba, sorry.
But it was filmed in the real place, which was Broken Hill.
And do you know what one of Broken Hill's unofficial nicknames is?
You tell me.
It's the capital of the Outback.
Ooh.
Very appropriate for this film.
That is very appropriate. So do you miss the title Outback? Would you have preferred Outback to Wake and Fright?
No, I think Wake and Fright has more of a punch. Outback sounds more like a documentary that BBC would release on Australia.
And I think it's more appropriate to the psychology of our protagonist of this film, Wake and Fright, because that has many meanings. That's a title that grabs you, because you're thinking, what the hell is Wake and Fright?
Yeah. Speaking of grabbing you, did you see the poster for this? It says, I love this, it says, have a drink, mate, have a fight, mate, have a taste of dust and sweat, mate, there's nothing else out here.
We've been there, Wayne.
Well, I have, because I worked in the Outback for a couple of months. In fact, speaking of the Outback, when I did my farming, which was in Queensland...
Wayne, I was wondering how many minutes, how many seconds it would take for you to reference your time in Australia.
Less than 10.
Less than 10.
Well, it's a weird thing to say, but this film almost made me feel nostalgic for the Outback.
Continue your story. I wasn't meaning to interrupt you.
When I went to work on this farm in Queensland, like 600 miles in from the coast, one of the questions I was asked in the interview over the phone is, do you think you'd like working the Outback? And they asked me, because of the isolation. It drives people crazy. It's hundreds of miles to the nearest big town. So it's very out in the sticks.
The isolation, the heat, and I think the heat makes a very important part of this film.
It absolutely does. I'd argue it's one of the key elements.
The key elements, that hellish atmosphere, the dust, the barrenness.
Yes.
And it's with this barrenness, Wayne, that we start the story, because it's very dry, it's dead, it's desolate. We see the expansiveness of the Outback. It's very orange. And I've actually got a quote of this, Wayne. Because his instruction to his set and costume designer was, I don't want to see any cool colours. I don't want to see blue or green ever on anything. All I want is red, yellow, orange, burgundy and brown. All the hot colours on costumes, sets, everything. I want people to watch the film and be unconsciously sweating.